So you broadcast this on the Facebook page?
No, it's Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another event from Streamin Steve's here in gorgeous Carbondale, Colorado. It has been a snowy, cold, miserable day, but you know what? It's springtime in the Rockies. We want to send shout-outs to Steve Standiford and Mary Margaret Standiford for having this amazing space. Shout out to GrassRoots TV, the nation's oldest community access station, and it's through their graces that we're able to do what we do here. A shout out to High Society Free Ride and First Bank Carbondale, our primary sponsors. A shout out to all of you who have been here and continue to come and support live music at Steve's Guitars. Tonight we are very happy to present an artist we have not had before. We hope you all enjoy this gentleman. He is quite polished and yeah, he's a head turner. Please welcome Kray Van Kirk.
A stormy Sunday morning and the rain was pouring down, so I took refuge in the library uptown. There I sulked and fretted like an angry child, until one of the librarians sat next to me and smiled. He was tall, he was handsome, and his smile was like the sun. He said, "I think you need some help, you're looking rather bummed." I hesitated briefly and then opened up my soul, and I told him why I wandered through the wet and cold. I said, "Oh, I am looking for heroes, like to drive the dark away, Superman to save the day, but all the skies are emptiness and gray. Ordinary, everyday, 9 to 5 with bills to pay, Captain Marvel's far away, tell me, where have all the heroes gone?" He said, "Everything's a story, change the story, change the world, and here you'll find the answer to the question you have hurled. There's no more fertile soil for the heroes that we need. All the stories gathered here for everyone to read. For this is where the hero's journey starts. Every line on every page will guide a growing heart. Now flying through the sky, that sounds like fun. But heroes are in everyone, not the few, not the one. Love, justice, daily done. Here's the secret, your quest has won. Heroes are not born, they are honestly made by the sweat of their brow, by the tools of their trade. Sometimes with iron, sometimes with steel, but always with love and the courage to feel the labors of Hercules close to their breast, day in, day out with no time to rest. They look just like you, they look just like me, with their capes tucked up neatly for no one to see. Well, I sat there bewildered, I sat there perplexed. I thought, wait, don't heroes all wear leather and spandex? If what he was saying was true and was right, there were heroes all around me hidden in plain sight. And then there came a voice by our knees. A very young child said, "Mr. Kent, help me please. My mother said you'd tell me where to look to find this very special book, all about the dinosaurs with lots of color pictures, mostly from the late Cretaceous, but before the Cenomanian-Turonian boundary event, 'cause that's the best part of the Mesozoic, when Tyrannosaurus Rex and Quetzalcoatlus were around, and they are like so totally cool. Arr, Mr. Kent, help me please. Now that I can do, said the man as he rose, and he pointed the child towards the books that he chose. He winked as he passed me, and I saw on his chest, under his shirt, the red shape of an S. Oh, heroes are not born, they are honestly made by the sweat of their brow, by the tools of their trade. Sometimes with iron, sometimes with steel, but always with love and the courage to feel. Well, good evening and welcome to Steve's Guitars. Thank you everybody who's out there watching. I would say from TV land, but that's not accurate anymore. It's, what is it now? Streaming land or digital land somewhere, I don't know. The interwebs, that's right, the interwebs, watching on all the tubes. It was 9 a.m., struck down by a radar dish that stretched to heaven's end. And when the prophet heard the news, she laughed until she cried. And then she shouted, God is dead, long live the divine. Then in the rain along the strip, her holiness, she let it slip all night long. Stand on the walls of Jerusalem, cry out to a desert land, that we need not guns in the darkness, we need water from the sand. Oh, 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 Jerusalem. The morning after found her on a barroom floor, lying in the consequences of the night before. And staggering through dirty streets, she made her way back home and cried behind the bathroom door, naked and alone. The compass lost, the map was burned, while in the darkness monsters turned and called out her name. Stand on the walls of Jerusalem, cry out to a desert land, that we need not guns in the darkness, we need water from the sand. Oh, 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 Jerusalem. It's a miracle, a rare device, begotten for a beggar's price. It's been 40 years and a day, time to wipe this weary mud away. The drum tour was sounding, it was 9 a.m. There were walls to keep the strangers out, but locked their children in. And the prophet, who was godless, stood on the shifting sands and bravely shouted shouted love to all the monsters on the land. Then suddenly amazed to find that love was echoed back in kind from a voice so still and small it hardly was a voice at all. And then her wife said, don't you know, most things have to die to grow in their own time. So come, my love, stand on the walls of Jerusalem with me and cry out to a desert land. And we shall be not guns in the darkness, we are water from the sand. Oh, 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 Jerusalem. Oh, oh. Stand on the walls of Jerusalem, may he cry out to a desert land. And we shall be not guns in the darkness, we are water from the sand. Oh, 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 Jerusalem.
Okay, so we drove up here. I was in Colorado Springs last night, and we drove over Hoosier Pass today. Thank heavens it was clear, because I have a Prius. Not exactly the most mountainous of cars. But a number of years ago, I had some shows over in the UK, and that was back when I was still living in Alaska. And so the plan was to fly out of Alaska into Newark, New Jersey, which was the first mistake. Yes, I can see Ralph back there going, no, bad mistake, boo. Yes, that's very true. That was the first mistake. But I had a show at the Borderline Folk Club, which is one of a really long-running folk club series in upstate New York. And actually, they just now finally folded their doors after like umpty years. I saw the announcement recently. And I was very disappointed because they're a great place. But anyway, the plan was to go into Newark and get a hotel right next to the airport, go spend the night there because we get in like 11 o'clock at night, and then drive up the next day, Sunday afternoon, do the show in upstate New York, go back to the airport and take the red eye over to London. So we land in Newark, and we come out in the rental car and we look across the airport parking lot, and there's the sign to the hotel right there. This is about 11:30. And then at 2:30 in the morning, we could still look right across the parking lot and see the sign to the hotel, but for the life of me, I could not get there. They were doing all this road construction. There were no signs, there were no lines. And at that point, I was living on an island in Alaska that had 10 miles of road. That was it. And you get to the end of the road, and there's a sign that says end. They didn't think we knew, that we couldn't tell by the rocks and the glacier on the other side of the sign that there was no more road. And we ended up on the New Jersey Turnpike 3 times. And on the 3rd time we go through the toll booth, the lady came out of the toll booth. Her name was Edna. We found this out. And Edna towers over the rental car, and she says, oh, honey, I will smack you if I see you again. And she gave me directions again on how to get to this place, and I still couldn't find it. I finally did. But I promised Edna I would write her a song, and I have yet to send it to the New Jersey Transit Authority because I'm not sure that I don't want to get Edna in trouble for threatening people who go through her toll booth.
Well, the night was warm, the sky was clear as we sank down through the air. But we were lost and wandering through streets that did not care. Navigation, oh, I swear, had gone insane, sending us in circles through streets that had no name. Then suddenly we saw them with New York on our right. Light lay all about them, it was pushing back the lonely night. And we came into their presence and tried to find our way. Turned off the navigator to hear what they would say. and when you're going wrong, they'll set you right. And it was in the asphalt jungle, Lord, lost as I could be. Toll booth ladies, rescue me. Well, now the second time we saw them, you know, they laughed and they said, no, not quite. Nice to see you here again, but you miss some lefts, you miss some rights. Now listen to my preaching, boy, and do not deviate, and you will reach your destination before it gets too late. And they were the toll booth ladies, goddesses of the night. Toll booth ladies, and when you're going wrong, they'll set you right. And it was in the asphalt jungle, Lord, lost as I could be. Toll booth ladies, rescue me. Well, now the third time that we saw them, they made us turn around. Edna said, I will smack you if you stay lost and don't get found, 'cause you're headed for Manhattan. So she lifted up her hand and showed me the road that headed into the promised land. I said, I can't get there from here. I can't get there from here. Oh, I can't get there from here. You know, I looked out, I saw that light from the window by my bed. Wasn't very far away, I should have walked instead. But I left my grateful fingerprints pasted to the glass, and I fell asleep while I was clutching a Jersey toll booth pass. And they were the toll booth ladies, goddesses of the night. Toll booth ladies, and when you're going wrong, they'll set you right. And it was in the asphalt jungle, Lord, lost as I could be. Toll booth ladies, rescue me.
I'm not sure where it sounds more or less pathetic to have two people applauding in the room, or whether it's just...
Okay, I won't applaud anymore.
I'm just saying. I'm just... Golf clap.
It's knowing that your door is always open and your path is free to walk. Makes me tend to leave my sleeping bag rolled up and stashed behind your couch. And it's knowing I'm not shackled by forgotten words and bonds, and the ink stains that are dried upon some line. It keeps you on the back roads by the rivers of my memory, and keeps you ever gentle on my mind. It's not clinging to the rocks and ivy planted on their columns now that bind me, or something that somebody said because they thought we'd fit together walking. It's just knowing that the world will not be cursing or forgiving as I walk along some railroad track and find that you're waiting on the back roads by the rivers of my memory, ever smiling, ever gentle on my mind. Though the wheat fields, the clotheslines, the junkyards, and the highways come between us, and some other woman's crying to her mother 'cause she turned and I was gone, I still might run in silence, tears of joy might stain my face, and the summer sun might burn me till I'm blind, but not to where I cannot see you walking on the back road by the rivers flowing gentle on my mind.
I dip my cup of soup back from a gurgling, crackling cauldron in some train yard. My beard a roughen and coal pile, a dirty hat will blow across my face. Through cup tans round a tin can, I pretend to hold you to my breast and find that you're waiting on the back roads by the rivers of my memory. And for hours you're just gentle on my mind. And I will, golf clap, golf clap. And Tiger Woods approaches the 19th hole. He's swinging. Yes, yes, it's in, okay. And the crowd goes wild.
John will be proud of that.
Welcome to NPR. Where everybody sounds like they're on NPR. What was that? Well, I will give a shout out to anybody who's out there that it is so wonderful to come to such, this room is absolutely marvelous. I love it. I got to come back. And it is so nice to have somebody like Ralph behind the control panel, because there are a lot of people with a lot of control panels who have no idea of what they're trying to control, and they have no control, and it's really bad. And I know that whatever Ralph does is going to be absolutely finest kind. So my hat is off to you, sir. This is an outstanding place.
Thank you. I kind of like it too.
Oh man, I just love it. How long? When did this place open? How long has it been here?
Steve's has been around for over 20 years.
Nice.
There's been a couple of different iterations of what's going on in the room.
Mm-hmm.
There was at one point a luthier here. They were building guitars here.
Oh, sweet.
It wasn't Steve's. It was Wally Bacon owned the place, and Wally still has a place, a guitar shop down in Glenwood, or towards Glenwood.
Oh, I'd like to see that. That's really cool. It's a great place. It's got roots and it's got history. It's got human community. The night was riding lonely, and the road was winding long. The sun had barely risen, frost was shining in the dawn. His sword was sharp, his lance was keen, his armor burnished bright. And as he rode, he sang with all his might. He sang, hey, 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 well, I am a knight, I am a knight, I am a knight, said he. Of all the kingdoms of the world, no finer thing to be. And he'd held the vigil rightly. He'd watched his arms by night, and in the morning came the king and made him there a knight. Sent forth a mighty hero to defend the castle walls and all who walk within its mighty halls. For I am a knight. Blood red was the sunrise, and blood red was the field. The knight lay fierce about him, and he brought the foe to yield. And those who fought, he cut them down, and he left them where they lay. Then he took the road to fight another day. Oh, hey, 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 hey. Well, I am a knight, I am a knight. He tried to find the song, but silence overtook him as he sadly rode along. And under midday shadows, oh, the night began to yield. Perhaps my spurs are better served than fighting in the field. No castle wall to build or guard, no blood to stain the soul, but blankets for the winter and food in every bowl. For I am a knight. The farmer had no harvest plow, so the knight gave him his sword. His lance became a bargeman's pole to help him cross the ford.
His armor turned to cups and bowls, his shield a chalice bright, his helm a lantern shining in the night. Oh, hey, 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 hey. The night was riding lonely, the road was winding long, the sun was slowly sinking, with darkness coming on. No sword, no lance to take the field, in rags against the cold. But as he rode, he sang out brave and bold. He sang, hey, 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 hey. Well, I am a knight, oh, I am a knight, I am a knight, said he. Of all the kingdoms of the world, no finer thing to be. I am a knight, I am a knight, I am a knight, said he. Of all the kingdoms of the world, no finer thing to be. Golf clap, golf clap. That's actually the one that I want to film the next music video to. I've made, usual live music videos, but I've got two that I made that we filmed with a professional crew up in Vancouver, BC. And those are really rather spendy. And so hopefully I haven't shot myself in the foot. Now that I've got those out there, everybody says, okay, where's the next one? But I'd like to film one to that, and I got to find a horse. I think it'll be harder to find a horse than it will be to find some armor, given the friends that I have. Yeah, but I think the last shot on the beach there at Moonstone Beach at sunrise. Oh my fathers, the seeds that you have sown. You made your war across the sea, and then you brought it home. And all the children suffer for the gold that you have sought. It's not against your freedom, but your greed that I have fought. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Oh my fathers, I will now condemn your hatred of my mother, of my sisters and my friends, your imaginary demons, woman, black or queer, your manufactured outrage against your shadow fear. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, my friends? What's going on? Oh my fathers, I am a straight white man, but the reins of power that you hold, I will not take in hand. I reject the lies you've written, I reject the works you've wrought, I reject your profit margins, for love cannot be bought. What's going on? What's going on? Oh, my mothers, wear your dangerous coats. Oh, my sisters, wear your dangerous coats. Oh, my lovers, wear your dangerous coats. With pockets full of love. Oh, my fathers, I declare your time is done. Nothing will I take from you, although I am your son. My hands are for my lovers and for green and growing things. My time is meant for laughter and the songs that children sing. Oh, my fathers, oh, my fathers. Golf clap. Yeah, that one was... after going through some historical papers and finding out that several branches of my family were slave owners in the Deep South. And when I tried to talk to my mother about it, she was the one who'd done the research, she didn't want to talk about it. Her sister, oh, we don't talk about it. I said,
Are you kidding me? I mean, you're all supposed to be these liberal, progressive, educated, and they were, you know. But boy, they wouldn't go there, and I was not. Leo Kottke said that audiences love terror, so we'll try to play this in a tuning that is completely not right. It's supposed to be in a completely different tuning. But we're here in Colorado, and the ocean is a long way away. So we'll bring a little bit of ocean here. Now, the Selkies are the seal people, those who can take off their seal skins and become human and walk on the land. And on some beaches, they come out and dance all night long under the full moon. Moon and tide, the water is deep, the water is wide. But the moon and the tide have brought us here to dance all night with the sky so near. When down the moon and the sun appear, it's home to the waves and the water so dear. Now, on this particular night, near this particular beach, an old fisherman was rowing home after casting his nets late off the outer shelf. And he heard the sound of singing across the water, and he shipped his oars, and he sat quietly on the dark water, and he saw the Selkies dancing under the full moon on the beach. And this one particular Selkie caught his eye because her face was a map of wrinkles just like his own. And her great mane of hair was the color of driftwood long, long on the beach. But she jumped as high and was as merry as any other there. And he watched and listened for a long time before putting in his oars and rowing away home. And when next the moon was full, the old fisherman took a basket. And he took part of the day's catch and he put it in the basket. And he walked down from his house to the beach where he had seen the Selkies dancing. And when he came down onto the beach, they saw him and they were afraid, and they ran to the other end where they had piled their sealskins. Because in all the stories, a man who is in love with a Selkie will steal her skin and hide it so she cannot go back into the water and has to stay with him. But the old fisherman set down his fish and held out his hands open to show that he meant no harm. And he walked up to the old Selkie and he said, "I am old. And the few years that remain to me would be but the blink of an eye to such as you. I want to invite you to come and stay with me in my house, in a room I have made for you, and keep me company, because I am afraid of the dying and the darkness." And the old Selkie glared at him, and she thrust her sealskin behind her. And he felt the power of her years, but he smiled soft and a little sad. And he said, no, I would never, ever take your sealskin from you. What a terrible thing that would be. I am too old for love, but I would hope for friendship, freely given. And the old Selkie's eyes grew wide until they were almost perfectly round, and she really did kind of look like a seal in that moment. And she peered at him, and she reached out gently and touched his face. And then she spoke but a single word. She said, "Wait." And then, giggling like a little girl, she slipped on her sealskin and jumped into the waves. And the old fisherman went home, and he mended his sails, and he cast his nets, and he went to sea, and he sold the day's catch at market. And that evening with the Selkies faded like a dream, one that leaves the pillow damp with tears just before sunrise. But when next the moon was full, the old fisherman filled his basket with fish, and he walked down to the beach where the Selkies were dancing, and he set the fish down for them. And the old Selkie walked up to him, and she said but a single word. She said, "Dance." Moon and tide, the water is deep and the water is wide. And the moon and the tide have brought us here to dance all night with the sky so near.
down, the sun and the moon appear. Oh, home to the waves and the water so dear. And the old fisherman danced all night with the Selkies on the beach. And in the morning she touched his face gently and vanished into the waves. And when next the moon was full, he took his basket, he filled it with fish. He walked down to the beach, and he found the Selkies there, and he danced all night with them. And at the end of the night, the old Selkie walked up to him, and she said but a single word. She said, beard. And the old fisherman whipped out his knife that had cut rope and fish and sails, and he cut off his great big beard square just below the chin, and he had little bits of hair sticking out left and right. And he gave it to her, and she took it and held it like something precious as she disappeared into the water. And the next full moon was the same. He brought the fish, they danced, and at the end of the night she said one word. She said, hair. And again the knife came out and cut off his great mane of hair square, and now he looked really silly with little bits of hair sticking left and right like gray straw. And the Selkies laughed, and they ran their hands over his head, and he laughed with them. And the old Selkie took the hair with her back into the ocean. And the next month, she had the shell of a little tiny sea creature that he did not know. And she said, blood. And once again, the knife did his work. And the little shell was filled with blood, and she cradled it like a newborn as she walked back into the waves. And thereafter, every single month, he would dance, he would give his fish, and the old Selkie would ask for a gift. One time it was a boot, and he gave her one of his boots and walked home with one sock and one boot. And the next time she asked him for an old coat that he would wear to sea when the weather grew foul. And every time he gave her what she asked without question or caveat. And then one month finally the moon rose full on fields ready for harvest, and the salmon were swimming upstream in all the rivers. And the old fisherman loaded his basket with fish, and he walked down to the beach, and he gave the fish to his friends, but he was very tired that night, and he could not dance. And he sat on the keel of a long-ago shipwreck, and his friend sat with him and held his hand, and they watched the Selkies dance and listened to them sing. And when the sun was turning the east to pale wheat, the Selkies waved goodbye, and they slipped on their seal skins and dove home. And the old Selkie stood up, and she helped the fisherman stand up, and she led him down the beach to the edge of the waves. And this time, she had a present for him. For she reached into the sand, and she pulled out his very own sealskin that she had made for him with her magic from all the gifts that he had freely given her. And she showed him how to slide and wiggle into it, and she put hers on too, and they had only their faces showing, like little kids playing in the blankets just before bedtime. And he laughed with the silly joy of it, and she laughed with him. And then she said but a single word. She said, love. And then quick as a salmon flashing bright in the sunlight, they pulled their sealskins over their faces and dove home beneath the waves. Moon and tide, the water is deep and the water is wide. And the moon and the tide have brought us here to dance all night with the sky so near. When the moon did appear and the sun appeared, and it's home to the waves and the water so dear. All right, let's see. Oh, since we've started with mushy love songs, we might as well continue. Mm-hmm.
That's really beautiful.
I like, are you familiar with Peter Kagan and the Wind?
I know the name.
Oh, it's an old Gordon Bach song, and the Chieftains covered it. They did a wonderful cover of it. Kagan, 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 bring the dory home. Wind and sea do follow thee, and all the ledges calling thee. It's a marvelous song, and they actually teach it at a couple
weather academy and meteorology academies, because Peter goes to sea and he gets caught by one of the first storms of autumn, and the wind slowly hits each point of the compass as it rounds and turns and backs, and he has to try to keep tabs on it, and they teach it to the meteorology students so they learn the way the wind builds. It's really cool. I didn't know that. But yeah, I love the seal stories and the ocean stories, and I live just right on the beach. And when I lived in Alaska, the seals and sea lions were everywhere, and they're just marvelous little creatures. So this is one. This one I love singing for women who are old enough to have some starlight in their hair and some dirt between their toes. Got some earthiness working there. And it's because we live in this youth-obsessed society, and when we see what we call little old ladies walking down the street, we just kind of, yeah, whatever, we walk by. But I love looking at those folks and knowing that in their memories is a month or a summer or an entire year with someone they have never forgotten. And probably nobody got very much sleep. And it was golden days and silver nights on the hills of Beltane. This is Lost Lover's Waltz. Alone on the dance floor at midnight, waiting for you to appear. Red velvet dress and black satin lace dusted my memories dear. But you're waiting alone on a floor like my own for a man with a face that's not mine. So I'll dance alone with a ghost I once knew, once upon a time. This is my lost lover's waltz, dancing like lovers do. Oh, this is my lost lover's lost waltz that I never danced with you. And down by the water where the minstrels all play and the painters, they wait for the light. The dancers, they sit with their feet in their hands, and they quietly rest from the night. And the playwrights, they sit with their quills in their hands, and they drink their black coffee like wine. But no words they write can turn back the pages when you were the measure of time. This is my lost lover's waltz, dancing like lovers do. Oh, this is my lost lover's lost waltz that I never danced with you. They say Paris is magic. They say Paris is the city of love, and I love all my memories of Baudelaire nights and mornings with you dressed in sunlight. Ooh, dee 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 dee, la 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 la. Ooh, do 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 do, dee 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 dee, la 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 la. Alone on the dance floor at midnight, candles beginning to fade. The mirrors are empty, they won't show my face. Shadows in silent parade. And locking the doors as I make my way home through the empty streets crowded too soon. Following footsteps that lead ever onwards, stepping in time with the moon. This is my lost lover's waltz, dancing like lovers do. This is my lost lover's lost waltz that I never danced with you. Ooh, dee 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 dee.
He caught a train out of La Mancha, and it carried him down to the sea. Oh, now give me a one-way ticket to where you think I'd rather be. I don't know where the sun rises now, and I don't know where she will be. He caught a train from a Spanish sunrise, headed into an Irish sea. And out upon a tossing ocean, he was sick with the movement of the waves. In the desk he found a faded journal, and he settled down to reading every page. The sun had gone down, and his lamps had all burned low, when the last entry finally set him free. He caught a train from a Spanish sunrise, headed into an Irish sea. There came the sound of summer running as he stood beside the railing in the dawn, and a half-remembered memory inside him awakened from a slumber decades long, and casting aside the mirrored face he wore, against his tale a gentle mutiny. He caught a train from a Spanish sunrise, headed into an Irish sea. Time flies like an arrow, straight toward the setting sun with nothing left behind. A season fine for Prometheus set free, and a medicine for melancholy found upon the sea. He caught a train out of La Mancha, and it carried him down to the sea. Oh, now give me a one-way ticket to where you think I'd rather be. I don't know where the sun rises now, and I don't know where she will be. He caught a train from a Spanish sunrise, headed into an Irish sea. The beat. We can feel the beat. The beat rolls on, baby. I'll tell you what. Let's finish up with two off the new CD, The Midnight Commander. I write a lot of stories, a lot of songs, and tell a lot of stories about heroes, and I think that is because heroes are important in the 21st century, maybe more than any other time so far. I think they are the shouted poetry of dawn, and I think that all of us, each and every one of us without exception, I don't care who you are, I don't care your identity, I don't care anything, you are on the hero's journey. You are mythic. But before we get mythic, we'll get a little whimsy. There is a little tiny, tiny island in the Irish Sea between Ireland and the coast of Wales and Scotland called the Isle of Man. And I was astonished. I had a show in Bishop Hill, Illinois. Out in the middle, I hope nobody there watches this. I swear I had walked into Children of the Corn because it was in the middle of nowhere. It's this wonderful, old, historic town. But there's nothing but bare, they hadn't planted yet that year, well this year, it was just a couple weeks ago, nothing but bare cornfields, and in one cornfield as I'm driving up, there's this perfect square of oak trees. And I'm like, what? It's like a witch's circle. And so I go into town, and town is this little, it's a historic site.
and it's like just a couple blocks long. There's nobody on the street. The wind is blowing 1,000,000 miles an hour, and all these oak trees are going back and forth. And all the buildings are these old, square-hewn logs with chinking in the middle. And it's like, oh, man. I'm looking for he who walks between the sheaves. But I played this song, and everybody got all excited. They said half the people that live there have Manx ancestry. They're from the Isle of Man, here in the middle of Bishop Hill, Chicago. What the hell? But on the Isle of Man, it's a little tiny town where my wife spent a lot of her growing up, and a little tiny town called Kirk Michael. There's a house about Kirk Michael out upon the Irish Sea, where it's written on the doorway where the windows used to be, that all who come inside will be tucked in for a lovely evening tea. There's a house about Kirk Michael, and it's tilted on its side, drunk upon the tempest, surrounded by the tide, but solid of Byzantium were candled windows and the dark light. There's a house about Kirk Michael, and it's full of sleepy bears, and a dozen shabby tigers who pounce upon the stairs. And out along the widow's walk, Joe Strummer singing with the mescalaires. And well, about Kirk Michael is a child who loves the dogs, and one who plants her flowers from the garden catalogs, and one who builds her dragons hidden softly in the heavy autumn fogs. Only heroes dare the kitchens, with pie and pudding on the wall and floor. It's my favorite mystery, it's the pages of our history. And there's a house about Kirk Michael, and in it I will die. I'll leave it for the children with the windows open wide, those poets in their patchwork quilted boats to set them free. These fragments have I shored against my ruin, and love shall not be lost in this summer flowered house beside the sea. All right, well, we'll finish up with the title track off the new album, The Midnight Commander. And once again, Ralph, finest kind, thank you so much for all your work to put all this together. I like the mics, and I like this stand. I gotta get one of these stands, it's awesome. And Steve, if you're watching, thank you for the slot, thank you for the time, thank you for the opportunity to come out here. I really appreciate it, and I love this room. You've got an awesome thing here. It's marvelous. So back to heroes and everyday heroes. And broken at last by despair, his futile sanity is laid waste. And knighted in his armored mind, he rides forth to heal the world. He casts aside his given name, and he takes up the mantle of the Midnight Commander. He patrolled the New York subway, the Q train Broadway line, from 96th on down to Coney Isle. His superhero mask was red, it was a pair of underwear, with rubber boots and cape, a kitchen towel.
And he knew the nightly riders, and he'd call them all by name. And they made sure his nightly fare was paid, while his history was hidden and his origins obscure. On a ragged subway seat, a New York hero he was made. If angry words were thrown against two women holding hands, or a homeless man was kicked and put to shame, if someone in a turban was pushed around and cursed, his eyes would flash and loudly he'd exclaim, he'd say, I am the Midnight Commander. I am a flame, I'm a beacon in the night. I am the Midnight Commander. Oh, set aside your hatred, put aside your fear, for the Midnight Commander is here. Oh, the Midnight Commander is here. Now everyone he challenged, they felt his gentle power, and they'd falter in their hatred and their pain, standing quiet, wondering at the seasons of the heart, and an old man in pajamas on the train. And the riders of the subway, the Q train Broadway line, were proud and tall when he would pass them by. They'd smile at one another and they'd give a mighty cheer whenever they would hear his ringing cry, when he said, I am the Midnight Commander. I am a flame, I'm a beacon in the night. I am the Midnight Commander. Oh, set aside your hatred, put aside your fear, for the Midnight Commander is here. Oh, the Midnight Commander is here. But all good deeds are punished, and someone finally made the call to New York's Metro Clinic with a tale. And a bed check found one empty. They found the window open wide. They found footprints headed toward the subway rail. And so the lords of Bedlam came, each one dressed in white, and they found him riding on his nightly fare. They called him by his given name, and that took away his soul and brought him back to his confused despair. But I am the Midnight Commander, he said as they gently led him off into the night. But I am the Midnight Commander, who will keep them from their hatred and rescue them from fear. If the Midnight Commander's not here, oh, if the Midnight Commander's not here. Now the New York City subway, the Q train Broadway line, gallops through the night just like before. But at 96th and 2nd, all the riders take a stand, for New York's Don Quixote was no more. And on the empty platform, as the train goes on its way, if you listen very closely, you can hear the voices say, they say, remember, remember, don't give in to hatred or to fear. Remember, oh, remember now, the Midnight Commander was here. Well, it started in Manhattan. It was a single burning flame. It spread to Queens, the Bronx, then Brooklyn, and Staten Island was the same. And Macy's, they ran out of red underwear, and rubber boots could simply not be found. Words were carved upon the subway walls, and 1,000 voices thundered with a sound. And the words said, I am the Midnight Commander. I am a flame, I'm a beacon in the night. I am the Midnight Commander. Oh, set aside your hatred, put aside your fear, for the Midnight Commander is here. Oh, the Midnight Commander is here. All right, thank you, everybody. Good night. I hope to see you again.